Hello，大家好，欢迎你们回来 KeasyChinese 的 Foundation Course。声母、韵母还有声调，我们上次都已经开始学习了。然后把今天的内容学会的话，我认为中文的拼音大概有99%的样子都已经学过了。这个说明什么呢？就是说明你们一开始学习简单的语法还有简单的句子的时候，我们的发音可以从一开始比较标准，我们都已经知道大概怎么读出来，怎么发音，他们标准的中文的口音。所以谢谢你们大家今天来上课，你看今天是不是好多了？第二个视频比以前好多了，因为我每一次都要学习嘛。今天带了花儿，也带了一个逆光。哎呀，我慢慢来吧。谢谢你们的耐心。如果还没有看完第一节课的话，我的建议是先去看内部，那样会对你们好一点。但是当然，今天我们要复习我们已经学过的内容，所以不用担心。我们每一次都一步一步来，都会复习上次学过的内容。所以今天又来跟我一起上课，拿着你们的笔记本来开始学习。我最后要说一声，就是非常感谢你们大家到现在你们的 support， 还有跟着我的新的账户。如果还没有 subscribe 的话，请帮我点一下，还要帮我点一个 like， 这个真的会帮 YouTube 的 algorithm。还有我不知道中文怎么说，就是 YouTube 的 algorithm 会把一些关于学习中文有感兴趣的人，会更容易找到我的视频。然后我也会帮助越来越多的人嘛。还有给大家说一下，我第一个拍的视频，我前2个生女是当做我第一个学生，他们现在是8岁还有9岁，他们太可爱了，真的是认真来开始学习我的课，我觉得太可爱了。所以你看，我能学习，他们俩能学习，那你也肯定会。好，那我们今天就开始吧，上课了。Hello everyone and welcome back to KeasyChinese Foundation Course for Mandarin Chinese. I'm Teacher Kian and this is Lesson 2, the Introduction to Pinyin, Part 2. If you haven't seen Part 1 yet, I do highly advise you see that first. I'll put the link either in the description or somewhere up there for you to find. But definitely check that out first because we will be building on from what we studied in the first lesson. Alright, so in today's class, what are we going to do? Of course, we're going to review the old initials that we did last class and then introduce the new initials that we studied today. We're going to review the old finals and cover the last set of finals. And then I'm going to have an entire section on tones with some bonus tips from my time studying in both university and on the streets of China, talking to real Chinese people. Some different tips on how to actually pronounce the tones effectively. And then, of course, we've got some new combinations. Using the new initials and the new finals, we're going to put them together with the tones, and we're going to start with our first words. My aim after today's class with Introduction to Pinyin 1 and 2, as I say, you should be able to pronounce the entirety of Mandarin Chinese language. Of course, we haven't started studying our first words yet. This is to give us a solid foundation of where to begin when it comes to next lesson. Alright, so if we're ready, let's go for it. Here we go. So a quick review. I've said it already before, initials and finals, but let's go into it again. So the initials, what are the initials? It's the starting consonant sound of the Chinese characters. And remember, each character is like a syllable in English language. With the initials, we then add a final. The finals are the vowel part of the characters. And finally, to these two, we add the tones, which give the melody of the character. Now, if you can remember from last class, actually the tones also change the meaning of the word. And last lesson I gave you the example of ma, 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 ma. Those four have very different meanings, so we can't forget how important the tones are. And just as a side note, a reminder again, Some characters are only the finals and the tones. They don't actually have an initial, but initials can't just be characters on their own. With this in mind, it's very important to remember that when we look at the finals, they are characters on their own, so we will practice them more, and there are a lot more finals than initials. Okay, so from the last lesson, here is the list of initials and finals we studied before, and I'm going to go through them one by one, firstly with the initials and then adding the new initials from today. So here we are, the review of last class initials. Have a go and see if you can say them before me. Are you ready? Bo, po, mo, for. The second row. Are you ready? Do, te, ne, le, ge, ke, he. And the last three, the more tricky ones from last class. If you remember, Cheesy, Wallace and Gromit, cheeks are really wide with the e, ji, chi, xi. And now we have our new initials for today. Here we go. So first, I've written some notes at the top here to kind of give us a little reference of where to start. The first set, z, c, s. Fortunately, the S is very similar to English, but the Z and the C is very, very different. I used to make a note next to the C of a little T and an S. It is very similar, c, c, c. And the Z sound is kind of similar to the S, z, z, z. Okay, I'll go through them one more time. Z, c, s. These three will need a little bit of practice. Next, we have what I call the back three. If there's a H behind them, just remember that your teeth are together. This is quite easy starting from the back. Sh is same in English. Sh, sh, sh. CH, again similar in English, but teeth close together. Ch, ch, ch. And the last one, ZH. I had a friend in class who taught me that it was the same as the GER in Germany. J, j, j. It's not quite the same, but that little tip helped me so much with the pronunciation of this because it comes out quite a lot in Chinese. J. So one more time, all together. J, ch, sh. Now taking the more difficult three from our last class and then our new sets here, what we can do is we can kind of compile them together because they all have the I sound after it. However, they are different. So for example, the first three we learned in last class, ji, qi, xi, are very E sound. However, the new initials also have an I behind them, but they are pronounced with a different sounding I. Z, c, s, j, ch, sh. Give those a bit of practice. And the last initial for today, here we are, the letter R, actually follows a similar sound to the others. Z, c, s, j, ch, sh, r, r, r. If you imagine these as characters, which they actually are, Z-I, C-I, S-I, Z, C, S, J, Ch, Sh. And likewise, if we add an I behind the initial R, 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 R. There we go. Today's initials. Not so many, not too difficult, but do practice them. Alright, and here we have the finals from our last lesson, the finals we studied. And as you can see, I've written a note for the changed spelling final. For those of you who remember from last lesson, all the finals can be characters on their own, but you cannot just write them like this. So all the finals with the changed spelling, I have written them underneath. And they're very useful as a cross-reference to check our pronunciation. For example, yi, yi, wu, wu. And the tricky one from last lesson, the U with two dots on it. If anyone can remember from the last lesson, it isn't a U with two dots. This is how I think of it. Think of it as two eyes next to each other. Remember, you're bringing the yi together. Yi, yi, yi. Okay then, those are the three tricky ones. So a quick review of the finals we did last class. Yi, wu, yi, er, a, ya, wa, o, wo, ye, ye, I, y, a, wei, ao, yao. How many of those did you get right? Good on you if you're following with me, by the way. It only takes practice, and I always say, if I can do it, anyone can. All right, the new finals then from today. I have made a note above to remind you of the most prominent changes in the spellings that we make. So I, as a character on its own, we would write yi, yi, as I said before. We also have some finals like in last lesson, u, e, I. We pronounce singularly wei, we write wei. However, as a final, although this is the pronunciation wei, we only write ui, dui. I mention this because we have some more of these coming soon. Okay, let's begin then. Our new finals for today. The first few are surprisingly easy. See if you can give them a go. An, ang. Have a guess? Ung. This one's quite tricky actually. Ong. And lastly, with the I in front, we change it slightly. Yong. Row 2. First, continuing with the Y sounding. Yin, yin, yen, wan, yuan. The last one's a bit difficult. I always found this one tricky. If you look at Chinese money, we call it the yuan, but it isn't yuan. It's actually this tricky U with the two dots, but you can't write it like that. Yuan. So in China, if you speak to someone about money, they'll say Chinese yuan. Moving on then to the third row. Wang, wen, weng, yang. It's so much easier when we see the changed spelling beneath them. I really believe that cross-referencing the finals with the changed spelling really helps you as a frame of reference on how to pronounce it. And the last two, quite straightforward. O, yo. Again, another couple here. You can see another couple. We would write just UN here. We would write just IO here. But be careful, the pronunciation is when, yo, when. All right. Okay, good job. Are you still with me? If you're still here, I'm so sorry to do this to you. Please give me a subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And do visit my website, KeasyChinese.co.uk. You have no idea how much it would help my channel and help people who really want this content find me. So there we are, our new initials and finals today. That's it. In last class and this class, in terms of the letters that we use to represent the Chinese language, I've pronounced all of them out loud for you almost. I think almost 95% of the entirety of the Chinese language. If you follow these videos, you should be able to do yourself. And again, similarly to last class, I've made a pinyin chart. And these are the characters that we can create using the combination of initials and finals that we have studied today. But you may notice that a lot of them are actually missing, and that's because with these initials we studied today, there are no combinations with these finals. So I've doubled down and used some of the initials from last class to review the new ones from today. So I've included Ji, qi, xi, le, ge, ke, and that way, when we combine them, ji, yong, jiong. I really hope you find my pinyin charts useful. I've got the lesson 2 and the lesson 1 pinyin charts, but I also have the full pinyin chart available to download. Here you can see the link KeasyChinese.co.uk/downloads. But if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put it probably in a link just beneath the video. And don't forget, if you do go to KeasyChinese.co.uk, I've got games to review all of the initials and the finals that we've done in today's lesson. So you can really practice your own pronunciation, both listening and speaking. And here we go. Now we move on to, like I already said, what could be an entire video in itself. But today I'm just going to brush over the basics. We're going to get through it and just try and get you to grips with the actual different sounds that are in Chinese, because it's more than just the letters. Okay, so as everyone is pretty much aware by now, Chinese is a tonal language. Tone as in pitch. It has to do with the pitch and tone of your voice. Chinese has 4 tones and a neutral tone. So technically there are 5 tones, but the neutral tone is just toneless. There is no tone to it. And I'll give you my tips for how to pronounce the toneless one as we come to it, so please do stick around. Alright, so in Chinese Mandarin, the meaning of the words is derived from the tones, not just the initials and finals. But again, you already know that, as I've said with the example, ma, 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 ma. And the last thing I want to say, the tone symbols above the letters only represent the tones in Chinese. They're not exactly the image of what you need to do with the pitch of your voice. They're just there to give you a little hint. So here is a list of the tone symbols that you can see above the letters when reading Chinese Pinyin. But how do we read it? Let's go into them one by one. Here we go. The first tone. The first tone is always described as a high-pitched tone, but please don't forget this is relatively speaking. I, as a male, have a relatively deep voice. Speaking in the first tone does not mean I have to bring it up here and say everything ma, ma, ma. All it means is it relative to the other tones. It's actually considered more of a flat tone, unchanging. The starting pitch and the ending pitch stays level. It's always represented by this picture, but I find it confusing as it implies that it's a very high-pitched. Just remember, it's flat. Okay, so let's go through some examples, 2 by 2. Ma, fei, gong, chi, shu, hua, zhong, ge, tian, xin. How many of those were you able to guess before I said it? Do try and listen to those again and repeat after me. There we have it, the first tone. Now we move on to the second tone. The second tone is considered a rising tone, starting low and getting higher. I don't know why, but in my mind when I was studying Chinese, this was always the most difficult one actually. The most important, forget the rising aspect of it, the most important is it's starting low. It's starting with a deeper sound, relatively speaking, than your normal pitch. That's the point. Starting low, then getting higher. See if you can follow along with me for these examples. Mei, liu, mang, peng, ti, bo, she, nei, ren, mo. Tell me the truth, how did you do? Let me know if you're following along, if you got any of them right, or if you're just following along with me. My intention in this class is to just get you parroting along after me. So go through those again if you've got time, and just repeat after me. But for now, let's move on to the third tone. The third tone, falling and rising. I cannot stand this description of the third tone. It isn't falling and rising. This picture is a better illustration of what the tone does, but I consider this tone, as well as many Chinese people, it's just the opposite to the first tone actually. It's very deep, low sound with a very, very slight rise to it. You'll hear what I mean when I go through the example. I'll say that again. Starting low and actually a very slight rise. Okay, let's go through them. 懂走你老好本小手. As you can see, in almost every single one of those, my voice had a little crack in it. And actually, that's what the third tone is. It's that little crack, that little dip that you do at the very low end of the pitch. Give these a practice, rewind it, go through them one by one, but don't sweat it. You're not here to perfect this. This is just to give you your first taste, your first brief understanding of the entirety of the Chinese language. It's quite a lot to take in. So just go through them one by one. Let's move on to what I think is the easiest tone to get to grips with. And here we are, the fourth tone. Like I say, I consider this the easiest tone because it's a falling tone, starting high. It's very sharp. As soon as I start reading through the examples, you'll understand exactly what I mean. The diagram, I don't really like this one again because it implies that it's a really high-pitched start, but it isn't. Again, just listen, follow through the list with me. Here we go. 是大不屑这看见会去做. If there's any one of those I think it may be the most difficult, it's got to be the QU. Do not forget, Q followed by a U is definitely the U with the two dots. It's Y, Y, Y. We cannot write it with the two dots after the Q. So this, Qu, is a little tricky. And finally, we move on to the neutral tone. I'll just spend a brief moment on this and give you some examples in Chinese where the neutral tone comes in. Here we have the two characters, ni, and then man, which is normally in the second tone. When put together, ni men, ni men. You can hear the men. You almost don't say it. It's just very fast. You just add it to the end. 你们对不起 is how the Chinese say I'm sorry. 对, the bu, bu in the middle, has no tone, and the qi, 对不起, 对不起. I don't know if you can tell, but the bu, you hardly bring it in there. It's just touching upon it lightly. 对不起. Next, the le as a character has no tone. The ma as a character has no tone. 吃了吗? 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 It's how Chinese people ask, did you eat? How do Chinese people say thank you? Many of you have heard these in movies and on TV. 谢, followed by another 谢, but it's not 谢, 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 it's 谢, 谢谢, 谢谢. The second 谢 is very light, toneless. Next, mama, mama, mama. Of course, I'm pretty sure everyone understands what that means. And how do you say the question word what in Chinese? For example, what's your name? What's that? What's this? Or what did you say? In Chinese, it's the same logic, but they have the word 什么, 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 什么. There we are, the neutral tone. Okay, so there we have it, the four tones, and of course the toneless neutral tone of Chinese. There is the symbolic representation of them and how people have tried to define them on a graph. But using the final A as an example, I'll give you one more representation, one more example of how they're pronounced. Ah, 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 ah. 谢谢 everyone. Really, thank you so much for joining me. And if you made it this far, I'm very proud of you because it's a lot of content to cover in such a short space of time. Again, after the first lesson and this lesson today, in theory, you should now be able to pronounce with a little bit of practice 99% of spoken Mandarin Chinese. It'll make it easier to understand as people are speaking in Chinese, and therefore we're able to type it into our phones and translate it. But starting next lesson, we're going to go into the nitty-gritty of our first sentences, how to introduce ourselves, and then we're going to colors, numbers, and then really start to learn Mandarin Chinese. So again, thank you so much everyone for your time. If you haven't already, please drop me a like and a subscribe. If there are any questions you have, please drop them in the comments below. And I really look forward to hearing from you soon. Take care everyone. See you next time. Bye bye.